It never ceases to surprise me the scale, of the next incident because, this isn't static this is a watermark event so it's hit a new high but it continues to grow and there's a few reasons for that. There's the wide scale adoption of technology at a pace that is being driven by the competitive landscapes that organizations find themselves in, countries find themselves in, but that is maybe a little bit faster than is comfortable for a lot of organizations, so there's a we don't quite understand what we're adopting when we adopt it and that isn't a static thing. So at the back end the bad guys are also evolving at a pace that we're entirely unaware of, and I think what you've seen here is the defenders of the realm scrambling to also keep up so they are aware of both the customer's need and the adoption need at the one end, and that's their business, and at the back end what the bad guys are doing because they're monitoring them, and when that all doesn't line up it just takes once or twice and you start having an event like this I suppose. So it isn't a cyber attack or a cyber event even in the sense that we normally think of cyber events, but if you saw my background is actually in technology and insurance and the definition that insurance as an example, takes us a wider definition of what cyber is, so it includes non-malicious events or misconfigurations or changes, and so in a sense it feels like the pace or the pressure that CrowdStrike we under to keep their systems at the most highest level of update has caused them to make a misstep and that misstep, the impact of that misstep is a lot like a cyber attack, but it isn't cyber attack per se, if that makes sense, not that we know of. When I looked at Down Detector, and I don't know if you're familiar with the website, but Down Detector allows you to, it visualizes the outages of multiple organizations, and you could really see it that the outage of Office 365 caused a number of main websites to go down. Everything, anyone that put anything on Office 365 you went down, so you see a lot of the big Visa, Sainsbury, there are a lot of the big front-end retail websites went down, and you could see the blip with Office 65 and a zero at the same time. So the issue is that there are different use cases, so this is a CrowdStrike and a Microsoft issue, and there are different use cases or deployments of CrowdStrike. There is the use of CrowdStrike by Microsoft, which is the apex because it's the biggest cloud provider and the biggest security front end. Let's say protection device. What you have with the airlines is direct deployments. There's probably 3 layers of this. There's direct deployments of CrowdStrike to Windows clients, and that could be corporate machines, and that could be corporate machines, but that could also be back-end servers that are responsible for physical processes, and I mean physical processes like check-ins, like baggage handling, like security, and that's kind of what you're seeing. And so what you've got is the 3 different layers. There's a direct and broad outage of the websites, and you see them recover very quickly, because Microsoft is recovering them. Then there's a second layer, which is an outage of all the Windows devices that are supported by various corporate organizations, and the airlines are one of those, and those will take a little longer because you have to get onto the Windows devices, reboot them, reconfigure them, and then there's the third tranche of really specialist equipment, and some of that stuff can't simply be rebooted so simply. A lot of that stuff is designed to be up for years on end, and so you got to, when you reboot it, like if you've got a security process or a safety process, you really have to check that it's working as it ought to be, and that's why it's a little bit more complex. And so Windows is used in all of those 3 environments to manage the interface, people's interface into those processes, but the physical processes take a long time to recover. So it really depends, and I hate to say that, but it really depends on the nature of the level of or the level of resilience that was built into those systems. So do we have and also that event EV was an unplanned event, and so sometimes an unplanned event can cause unintended consequence. So it could be the integrity of a piece of hardware as an example. So I think you'll see varying degrees of recovering of systems. You're seeing some stuff come back, online things like the booking systems, and which again are back office systems, but not necessarily physical process systems, and so you'll see those come back online. They'll be enacting their DR plants, so basically looking at whether they can fail over to a safe place, and some of them will fail over manually but gracefully in some of those systems. If you think about security checks and the hardware and baggage handling, you don't have a separate system you can fail over to, so you really have to get it up and running, and that might require some rebuild and configuration and testing, and then it can come back up, and you could be looking at anywhere from days to weeks. So the average kind of downtime when you have a non-graceful shutdown is somewhere around 21 days of total outage, and by that I mean there's disruption. And a little bit of a tail follow-on event for up to 21 days. Now it could be longer or shorter depending on the particularities of the system. Do I have spare equipment? Was there an integrity problem, or do I have an environment that is so important from a safety point of view or an integrity point of view that I've got to recertify the facility, in which case you could be looking at that upwards of 21 days. I'd love to say that we're going to hit a plateau and stabilize, and I would say that in terms of, let's say, pure technology resilience, I think of it really simply. If you're going to build a bridge, and you understand that the headwinds could destabilize the bridge, what kind of cement, metal materials you've got to make to get up to the right level of resilience. Now I think that has been underestimated in terms of the potential for impact, and organizations can build resilient businesses, but I think the unknown factor here is what the bad guys are doing and how they are propelling us to act in certain ways. So they are evolving too. So you talk about AI, they are adopting AI, and that's going to make attacks that even 3 years ago were very, very difficult to carry out at scale become really, really simple. So at the same time as it solves our problems, it solves their problems in terms of logistics and how you carry out some quite complex cyber attacks. So I think where I'd like to say we're going to hit a plateau. I think there's a geopolitical stability element here, so if there's regions outside of the rule of law that are connected to the internet, then that's always going to be something that we're going to have to deal with the human element. But I think it's a wake-up call, and I think it's a near miss in terms of when I say near miss, and you can see the impact on hospitals, which is terrible, but I think there's a real step up required for governments in terms of critical infrastructure, and you're seeing some of that regulation bite in Europe at the moment with the N2 directive, but I suspect that you will see a very strong set of minimum requirements across very broad range of our country partners and business partners. So there's a lot we can do. So even if you can't stop all of the various ways that cyber attacks are created, one of the things we're seeing here is the time taken to recover, no matter how bad the incident. It's like, how long does it take us to rebuild a bridge? Well, you can plan for that, and I think we need to see better recovery facilities for our emergency services, for our critical national infrastructure, etc. And I think you'll see regulators try to step up to that mark. Yeah, well, this is, like I said, this is the watermark. This is the latest watermark. So I think, if you step back, we had the W. Cry incident, which caused 10 billion of damage over 3 to for days. Then you had the solar winds incident, which I believe in 48 hours, caused the same. And I think this is on a grander scale, because I think at this, there's multiple moving parts here. We are connecting at a pace, and this worries me about what the next water market is going to bring. But as we start to bring on things like autonomous vehicles into the network and into the internetwork, and suddenly, I think we're in the age of the internetization, let's say, or network connectivity of physical process, automations, and that has to be really done really carefully. And I know there's a lot of people that advocate against that happening, but these are networked systems by nature, and so by nature they tend to be connected. So yeah, this is the watermark so far, but I don't think it's going to be for very long. Thanks for watching this video.